this workshop reach the population and was a way to improve the image of. It's not. And then all the declaration on the very good food and so on. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ted's way of putting it was that he said that he felt that the kind of authority the NEA has is that it's not quite on the level of, say, like the IAEA, where if the IAEA makes a declaration, like nations follow it because the IAEA has made a declaration. But that, nations use it in support. That, and in this particular case, I think, you can interpret it as the Japanese government was doing this kind of like, we've got to combat reputational damage anyway. But the declaration of, it's passed the stringent food safety tests, and hey, international experts have come and said that the tests that we're doing are rigorous and it's safe and it passes all, ticks all those boxes. Ergo, please eat it. And I think that's the thing. I was thinking for a while about like how you could try and assess the circulation of that, and it's not entirely clear because I think it's difficult to trace like how that knowledge and how the reference to it circulates afterwards.
In principle, I think I've seen the draft report of the workshop, which should be endorsed by the next CRPPH meeting, which would be next month. Next month.
Great.
You should receive the report.
Yeah, that'd be great. That could be a part 2. Analyze the report.
Yeah. And so, what will you do with this analysis? You will.
So I think this was. I was thinking of this as a chapter. If we go back to the other presentation where I was talking about the national government, the anti-nuclear movement, and then international organizations. And I wanted to draw out some examples of this. I think is interesting because it's obviously an international organization acting in response to a request from the Japanese government. But also that it's kind of interesting in that this kind of framework and the imagination of what expertise is and how it circulates is quite close to the original position, that it's quite deficit model-esque, it's quite create an enclosed space for experts to discuss, reach a conclusion, try and communicate that conclusion. And so I think it contrasts nicely with things like the ICRP dialogues, which are clearly far more participatory, and also purely from the international community. And I think the other thing that was interesting in terms of commenting on social structure is that there's a big overlap in personnel, and yet people interact very differently and present themselves very differently. That this is clearly a kind of suit and tie event, and that I was going over my fieldwork notes, and it was the fact that as people had walked on stage, I'd made like little notes of how people were dressed, and it was so ludicrously consistent that it was almost always grey or dark blue suit,
But then, clearly, NEA has less flexibility than ICRP compared to the organization, and so it's why this is some difficulties according to the mandate and the position on the structure itself. You can play one role or another, and so it's why this workshop was really dedicated to field and not at all starting from the public concerns.
Yeah. And I think the fact that you've used the term playing one role or another, and I think for me, particularly in trying to push this metaphor of like performative analysis and improvisation, I think that's exactly what it is. It's the fact that you see the same people in one role or in another role, and that what it means to be an expert and how you present yourself and your relationship to the public changes according to the format of the event and to some extent.
Yeah, then the format, for me, the format is largely dependent on the organization and its link with the member, with the government, and but then the way the people catch the situation should not be completely influenced by that.
I catch the situation in what sense?
Because it's clear that in this workshop you had some people representative of CRPPH and delegate from the member state, and so they were in this position. You can find exactly the same people in the ICRP dialogue with a different who were not represented. They are still member of the same organization, but they are not constrained by the same format.
Yeah.
But at the end, the way, in principle, the way they see the situation, they understand what is at stake, should be the same.
Oh yes, of course.
I hope.
Yes. But I think that's what's interesting, is that even though it's the same people with the same format, the mode of presentation is dictated by the context. And you're right, that sometimes you're going to be speaking as a representative of the organization. Other times, I mean, you're always kind of a representative, but you are in principle speaking as yourself.
Because this is something that we work on the position of expert, and essentially with IOSN we work on this topic and try to see in which way the expert can be at the service of the population. But at the same time, the expert also need to be at the service of the government, of the national decision makers, or local decision makers. And so sometimes it could be conflicting. Or it's not exactly the same type of advices which are expected. But then there is a need to have the same view of the situation and to try to provide and to be respectful to all what is really at stake, and to really understand what are the logic behind all the elements. But then at the end, you need to do your job properly. But it's not so trivial with regard to post-accident situation. You mentioned in your first presentation that at the end, the authority has to take decision on the way you organize the management. If you push this strategy instead of another, then of course you can try to involve the people in the decision process, in the analysis of the situation, but at the end you need to have a decision. And so it's not so trivial where in the class in general the advices are requested where the experts are not directly involved with accompaniment of local population. In post-accident, it's different. They have to provide. They are contributing to the national policy, and they are also requested to help to be at the service of the population.
And often in very public ways that they're not used to doing or necessarily even trained for. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's one of the criticisms often that comes up of like Jürgen Habermas's deliberative models, is that he seems to believe in kind of true consensus. Do you know Habermas? And